What's up, everybody? It's me, Johnny. I'm here with my immediate reactions to UFC 304 in Manchester, England. We are going to have a podcast this week, mind you, but Rob can't record today immediately after the event. So I want to get a video up right now so the channel stays active. Hopefully we can record tomorrow so you can hear Rob's thoughts on everything. But let's get into UFC 304, starting off, of course, with the main event, Leon Edwards against Belal Muhammad. This fight went the complete opposite way that I thought it would have gone. And to be honest, it went the opposite way that a lot of people thought it would have gone. Leon Edwards was the favorite heading into this fight. And a lot of people, including myself, thought that Leon would dominate Belal and just outclass him, outstrike him. You know, we said he was a better striker. We said that he could use his range. He was a sniper. He would get some clean shots and combos in there, and he would do that for most of the fight. But that is not how this fight went whatsoever. Belal Muhammad dominated Leon Edwards, outclassed him. And that is not to say he did that in every single round. In the third round, Leon Edwards won that, right? He had the back of Belal for pretty much that entire round. I don't think he was ever too close in getting a submission, but he clearly won that third round. And then towards the latter half or the back end of the fifth round, he was smashing Belal with those elbows, opened him up, and that probably did enough damage to win him that fifth round, right? Even though, again, Belal was taking the back of Leon for most of that round, that probably won him that fifth round. But for the rest of the fight, for the vast majority of the fight, Belal Muhammad was dominating Leon Edwards. He was the one doing the outclassing. And I don't want to sit here and start this by saying Leon looked off, he looked tired, he said he was tired the whole week, maybe something was going on, da-da-da-da. You have to give complete credit to Belal Muhammad. You have to give him his props and his respect. He did exactly what he said he was going to do, and he outclassed Leon Edwards, and he is the new welterweight champion. I know a lot of people might not be happy about that. I know he's attracted his fair share of haters, but he is the champion and he dominated Leon Edwards. And not just with his wrestling, we'll get to that in a second, but even on his feet, he was out-pressuring Leon. He had more volume. He landed more. Maybe the individual strikes didn't look as clean or look as good or look as damaging, but he had so much more volume than Leon. He was landing way, way more. And then you talk about the wrestling. How many times did Belal Muhammad slam Leon on his ass? He even spiked him directly on his head, potentially causing neck issues, maybe even a concussion. I'd be surprised if Leon wasn't concussed after that. In every aspect of that fight, Belal Muhammad just dominated Leon Edwards, completely outclassed him. And Leon didn't know what to do. He looked half asleep at times, especially when his back was taken and he was just trying to survive. Now, I don't think that Belal Muhammad was ever close to getting a submission. He usually doesn't do that, but he kept the position. He was still getting strikes in. The strikes didn't look all that great, but he was still getting those strikes in, right? And that's what counts. They still counted as significant strikes. And especially keeping the position, he had a lot of control time. Not the determining factor here when it comes to damage, but you can't say that Leon won those rounds or that fight, even though those strikes might not have looked that good. He just dominated him. He completely outclassed Leon Edwards, and I don't think anyone can really say much against Belal. I saw some comments that, he's a crotch sniffer, he was just hugging him that whole fight, but what, are you going to call it for Leon? Because Leon wasn't putting back any offense whatsoever. You can't. You can be upset with how the fight went, you can be upset with how Belal fought, but he did what he needed to do to win, and he won unanimously. No one can dispute it. No one can argue and say, maybe, Leon Edwards won that fight. He got the cleaner strikes. Yeah, but he didn't throw that much. He couldn't put any combos together. He couldn't put any decent offense together. And any time he might have got some momentum, Belal just slammed him and took him down. And I thought that he would do better with his takedown defense, especially after fighting Usman. But Belal's training with Khabib clearly did something. He looked like Khabib at some times in that fight. I'm really impressed with Belal, and to be fair, I was impressed with him before. I've never been a Belal hater. I know people really hate this guy, right? But he's clearly a family guy. He's repping his country. He fought fantastically. People in the crowd didn't like it. Understandably, you're in Manchester, you're in England. They were going to boo him whether he won or lost or whatever it was. People weren't happy, but he is the champion, and you need to give him his respect for that. So in terms of next opponents, probably Shavkat against Belal Muhammad. Maybe they want to do Shavkat against Ian to see who would be the number one contender. I don't want to see that. Just put him against Shavkat. That would be the best thing for me. I would like to see them both fight by the end of the year. And I would also like to see Leon fight. Leon just looked dejected. He looked like he did in that first fight against Usman until he got the headshot dead kick, right? And knocked Usman out. But there was no moment like that in this fight. And his late flurry in the fifth wasn't, it was too little too late. It looked great, it looked impressive, but why not do that earlier in the fight? He had his opportunity to do that. I don't know what was wrong with Leon, but I'm not saying this because, Belal only won because Leon was off. Belal won because he was fantastic. But Leon, I don't know, man. He just didn't look like the guy that a lot of us thought he would heading into this fight. So Belal Muhammad is your new welterweight champion. Let me know what you think about that fight in the comments below. But let's talk about the rest of these fights. And then we've got some more finishes to talk about here, which is good. Tom Aspinall against Curtis Blaydes. Tom is the real deal, bro. Every time he wins like this, I say he's the real deal, but he's the bloody real deal. He sat Curtis Blaydes down with it looked like a simple jab. Because he missed with the right hook after, because Curtis Blaydes was already going down. It looked like any run-of-the-mill jab, and he put Curtis Blaydes down. And I don't think that's because that Curtis Blaydes doesn't have a chin. It's heavyweight, right? I don't like saying Curtis Blaydes doesn't have a chin because anything can happen in heavyweight. I just think that Tom Aspinall is that strong. He's that big. He's that quick. He can put anybody down. And he did it in around a minute, right? And now I know a lot of people, so obviously he got the jab, took Curtis Blaydes down, and it was just a bit of ground and pound. People were saying that the fight was called early. I disagree. If you look at the replay, Tom just kept getting strikes on Curtis, and Curtis wasn't defending at all. He was just laying there, and he was just getting socked in the face. Yes, it looked like he was getting up, but you weren't doing enough. That was a clean stoppage, in my opinion. Tom Aspinall clearly won that fight. I was hoping that Curtis Blaydes would have brought a bit more offense together, but that's what happens when you fight Tom Aspinall. He did it to Curtis, he did it to Pavlovich, he's done it to most people that he's fought. This dude is scary. Put him against John Jones. I wish it could be him and John Jones without the need for Stipe. Yes, I love Stipe. He's like the best heavyweight that's ever fought. But at this stage, he's old. He hasn't fought in a few years. He lost pretty convincingly against Ngannou. I would just like to see Aspinall against Jones, but I think Jones might actually retire after the Stipe fight. Let's see what happens. But that's what happened with Aspinall and Blaydes. I love Aspinall, man. I was on edge. Like, I was just getting nervous and excited and anxious every time he fights. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because someone's getting knocked out. No one's surviving past the first round. Maybe the second round at a stretch. But Tom Aspinall is so bloody good, bro. He's so good. Next up, we have Bobby Green against Paddy Pimblett. This fight went the way that I thought it would. I predicted and backed Paddy Pimblett to win, even though I think Bobby Green or King Green, King Green, I can't get the name wrong. King Green, I believe, was the favorite, right? And I understood it to an extent, but I believe people were overlooking Paddy. And for some reason, King decides to try for a takedown against Paddy Pimblett. What are you thinking? He's a BJJ black belt, and that's never been where your game is at. Like, you've been good, talking shit, fighting, using your hands, boxing. That's what Bobby Green and King Green, bloody hell, that's what King Green is good at, right? But for some reason, he decides to try and grapple with Paddy Pimblett, who clearly is fantastic at grappling. He's a black belt. He's submitted people before, and he choked King out cold. He was cold in that triangle choke. And then, because the ref wasn't calling it, maybe he didn't see that King Green was already asleep. He gets into an armbar and he's freaking yanking the arm of King Green while he's asleep. He probably caused some damage there. I thought that fight maybe went on a little bit too longer, but again, maybe he didn't see that Green was already asleep. He slept him, absolutely slept him. A lot of people weren't giving Paddy his props because he fought an old, dejected, Tony Ferguson. And I understood that to some extent, like how many losses had he had at that stage? It was like 5 or 6 or something, some high number like that. So people weren't really giving him his props, even though he looked good in that Tony Ferguson fight. He looked fantastic in this fight. He finally has his ranking, presumably. Let's get him against a high caliber of opponent. I really want to see how Paddy Pimblett does, and people love him. Yes, he was in England. He was in Manchester, but people love him. He's a showman. He knows to put on a show. Let's get him against a highly ranked opponent. I want to see how Paddy Pimblett does. Does he ever fight for the title? I don't know. It's a completely stacked division, but he looked fantastic against a veteran like King Green. So good on him, man. I'm really happy for Paddy Pimblett. And finally, Arnold Allen against Giga Chikadze. I said this as well, that Giga really needed to work on his cardio. And I don't even know, like, was it his cardio? Like, was that the reason he slowed down towards the end of the fight? Because round one, of course, Giga looked fantastic. He won that round. His kicks are so quick, so powerful. He just did more than Allen in that first round. But then as the fight started to go on in the second and then the third, Allen's just a dog, bro. He doesn't back down. He's like a pit bull. He'll get hit and he'll come back and he'll come back. And he won in the end. It's as simple as that. He's really, really durable. Like, I got some notes here. He was getting some really nice jabs. He looked to unbalance Giga very slightly as well. There was a big left hook in there. And then we come to the third round. Allen just got more comfortable. He was landing much easier. His shots were definitely more impactful than Giga. And I think Allen really learned how to, because Giga was running around the ring the whole fight, right? Not to say that he was running completely. He was still landing as he was moving back and moving side to side. But in the third round especially, Allen managed to cut the cage, managed to actually get Giga against the fence and getting some combos in there. And it was like 24-12 significant strikes to Allen in that third round. Clearly won the fight. He won the second. He won the third round. I thought the second could have been close. I was worried that some judges were going to give it to Giga because he started off the round stronger. But Allen finished strongly, looked really good. I'm really happy for him because, as I said, he's been fighting some incredibly high caliber opponents. I thought he was due a win. He deserved a win. And he got the win. So good on him. Giga, I don't know what he does next, but Arnold Allen, I would like to see him again against another high caliber opponent. Don't know how he does because he has lost those fights. But let's move on to the last fight. And this wasn't in the main card, but I want to talk about it anyways. Muhammad Mokaev against Manel Kape. What a shit fight. After all that talk, after all that beef and drama and fighting in the hotel room and all that kind of crap, that's how they fought. This fight was awful. It was awful. Neither of them barely struck. They barely landed, right? Mokaev barely tried to take Kape down. And it seems like, apparently he said in the post-fight press conference that the UFC could cut him because they didn't like how he kept taking people down, especially in that division. That division, has been, up in the air a little bit in the past, let's say. So they didn't want him to keep taking people down. Maybe that's what contributed to him not taking down or trying to take down Kape too much in that fight. But I don't know, it was just boring, man. It was boring. They were barely throwing. And Kape especially, I thought that he would have way more output. His corner was saying, bro, you got to throw more volume, have more output. And he didn't even do that much in the third. Boring fight, really disappointed. Mokaev, yeah, he won, but that wasn't that impressive. I'd be surprised if he actually got a title shot. I would prefer Steve Erceg back in there. Not Mokaev. No way. Not after that performance. And based on what he said, he might get cut from the UFC. And I wouldn't be surprised after that performance. It just wasn't exciting. And even Kape as well, with all the times he's missed weight and all his shenanigans. That was disappointing from both of them, bro. Both of them, that was really disappointing, especially when you just had a fighter like Steve Erceg fight against Pantoja so valiantly with his boxing. You put on an incredible show. I can't wait to see Steve Erceg against Kai France. I think that's going to be... I was hoping this fight would be more exciting, in all honesty, and I was proven wrong in that regard. I thought it was going to be way more exciting. But there's no way that Kai France versus Steve Erceg is not exciting at UFC 305 in Perth. And I want to be there. So let me know what you think about UFC 304 in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoy these immediate reactions. And until next time, this has been Johnny. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the podcast.